Welcome to the I Hate Humans podcast. I am your host, King William Thompson, aka the anti-social people person, aka the laziest man in podcasting, and I am joined by my wonderful co-host, the world's greatest co-host, Princess G, aka Real Quick, aka Sergeant Slaughter's illegitimate daughter. Princess, how you doing today? What's going on with you?
Maintaining.
Maintaining. That's good. That's good.
Good with you.
You know, making it. You know, it's another wonderful day. What you say?
So that's all we can ask for.
That's all we can ask for real. We're here. We still have opportunity to choose what we do, right? So with that in mind, I'm excited about today's discussion. But before we get into that, I just want to say to all of our viewers, thank you for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. Hit that subscribe button. Let's get that out of the way right now before I forget later on. All of the returning listeners, thank you. Thank you for continuing to help us grow. We're going to continue to give us everything that we got so that we can, you know, hopefully do our part to inspire some change and inspire growth. That's what we want. This is really just about growth. You know, that's what life is about. That's what living is about, is about growth and development. So with that in mind, Princess, let's talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, something that's been a part of my life for as long as I can remember, which is hip hop. The culture of hip hop, not which is inclusive of the genre of hip hop. Where we stand today.
Before you do that, I have a question for you.
Yes.
When did you fall in love with hip hop?
That's a great question.
You remember that movie?
Well, not loving. See, my fucking brain has been hijacked by this new culture of shit that like loving hip hop that ain't really got shit to do with hip hop. Like when you talking about brown sugar.
There you go.
There you go. I had to rewind my brain, you know, a quick cleansing. Yeah, that's I remember that in the movie, and that's a great question. If I could say, I don't know if it was a moment where I consciously knew that I loved hip hop, because it was something that was around me all, like, I don't remember life without it. You know, it was always a fixture in my life. But I will say one of my favorite hip hop memories is watching my father DJ a schoolyard party back in the day. Like, I remember vividly. I remember this was at, if I'm not mistaken, in the Bronx. This was at PS 28, I believe. I believe it was at PS 28. But we were at the schoolyard. I remember them getting the speakers out of the car. I remember them plugging the speakers into the light post. That was the first time that I realized that the light post had electrical outlets. So for those who grew up in the hood in New York City, you might have had shout out to New York. You might have, you know, memories of long ass extension cords running from the light post into somebody's window. They probably didn't pay their electric bill, so they was borrowing some from the city, right?
At least they could do.
Right. But I remember that. I remember watching them set up the speakers. I remember just standing next to my father in the, you know, it wasn't a booth, but you know, they set them up right in the middle of the playground, the yard, and you know, all of the people coming in and just everybody out there dancing, like some of the shit that you see in movies. You know, I got a chance to experience that firsthand as a young boy, you know, so that's probably my favorite memory of hip hop, like, because that's what the culture was really about back then. It was about, you know, bringing people together to have a good time because there was so much bullshit happening in the neighborhood already. You can't. Why would you want to bring people together, or at least try to bring people together surrounding that? You know, you want to kind of switch things up a little bit. Let's dance, let's party, let's enjoy ourselves, let's escape from, you know, the shit that we see every day that's fucking us up. And that's not where the culture is anymore. And that's what I want us to discuss. But before we get to that, because I know you're from the Caribbean, so y'all had other options besides hip hop. It wasn't all about hip hop. So with that in mind, I like to ask you the same question. What was the moment where you realized your love for hip hop?
You're gonna laugh at this, but
and it better not be no fucking Marky Mark shit. I'm gonna tell you that right now. If you say Marky Mark, I'm ending this. So if that's what you were gonna say, figure something else out.
I did not fall in love with Mark Wahlberg until he became an actor. I was not in love with Marky Mark.
Okay, carry on.
No. The first time that I realized how much I loved hip hop was after I heard Harlem World.
Mace?
Yep.
Oh,
I remember, and this is, you know, back then, this is when we had cassette tapes, showing my age. We had cassette tapes, and I'll never forget pushing in that tape and writing down all the lyrics to all of those songs, just so I could remember them. And so now, to this day, I know all of the words to all of the songs on Harlem.
That's hip hop right there. That's hip hop right there. Like what he said. Hold on. I gotta rewind that. I gotta know exactly what he said because I gotta wrap this shit back. That's the essence. Like I remember another one of my early memories when Salt and Pepper was first came out. I remember Push It being on the radio, and I remember my aunt recording Push It and playing it back, doing the same thing. Like that might have been one of the first songs that I knew the lyrics to, just because
he played it so much.
Yeah, playing it back to back to back. You know what I mean? Like that's hip hop. That's what it was back then. You know, and just these days, Princess. Every other week, you have a rapper getting indicted. You have a rapper getting murdered. You know, it seems like it's a weekly occurrence, damn near. There's always some rapper in the circuit in some sort of dire strain, right? And I don't know if it's a product of there being more rappers now, because people see this as an opportunity to change their circumstances in a way where back in the day it wasn't really seen that way, because money, like rappers didn't have the money that they do now. The culture wasn't as big as what it is now. So there were rappers that you would see around the neighborhood. You know, they might have a video on Video Music Box, but they still don't live too far away from where you do, you know, because they're not getting it like that. That's how it was back then.
Busta Rhymes lived 9 blocks away from me.
Were you in a affluent neighborhood at that time?
Shout out to Flatbush.
Busta Rhymes living in Flatbush.
Troy Avenue.
And he's on Troy Avenue. Look at that. And he's Busta Rhymes. You know what I mean? Like that's what it was back in the day. And it's funny you mentioned Busta Rhymes, because when I was a kid, the artists that I loved were none of them were gangster rap artists. You know, Leaders of the New School was one of my favorite groups when I was a kid. They weren't talking about gangster shit. Nice and Smooth. Shout out to Greg Nice and Smooth B. They weren't talking about gangster shit. You know, LL Cool J, KRS-One, Big Daddy Kane, Slick Rick.
Slick Rick was the
Yeah.
Slick Rick was the man.
Like, these dudes were making great music and they weren't talking about gangster shit. So I don't understand why now we've allowed our culture to get to a point where if you're not talking about gangster shit, it's almost like you can't be listened to, or there's only room for a handful of artists to be successful if they're not talking about gangster shit. It seemed like.
I think even with that though, you have to measure what success looks like, because I think we have artists today that are not promoting the gangster shit, but are they as successful as those that are? And you know, when I think about Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, just to, you know, it's not coming off right. But when I think about them, right, when I think about them, like, to me, they make dope. First of all, they make music that I can understand. Like when they rap, I know what they're saying. Let's start there.
It's legible.
Let's start there, right? But because, you know, I feel like because they're promoting unity and Black excellence, they're not regarded as, you know, not by us, maybe because we old, and that's what we want. That's what we're accustomed to. That's what we grew up on hip hop loving, right? But we're also, as somebody so kindly pointed out to me, we're also not buying music. We're not downloading.
We're not the primary consumers.
Right. And so they don't get the ratings that I think that they should as artists.
See, I don't know the numbers anymore. Like back in the day, like because hip hop is a sport, there's definitely a level of competition. There's an element of competition that is inclusive of hip hop culture, because it's whether you're dancing or whether you're rapping or whether you're DJing, even down to the graffiti, even down to your fashion. A lot of it is rooted in competition, is rooted in who's the best, right? It used to be a situation where like record sales, like who's selling the most, was like that was a thing. And
it was healthy competition.
It was definitely healthy competition. But there was a time where in order to sell the most, you kind of had to be the best. Like you had to be able to rap better than your contemporaries. You had to be able to make better music.
Understand what you were saying.
Right. And part of that,
I'm never gonna let that point go, for the record. For this whole show, that's what I'm gonna talk about.
Yeah,
I gotta understand what you're saying.
The lean mumble rappers, I'm pretty sure they hear you. The Lil Wayne babies, I'm sure they hear you.
Yeah, I'm talking about like Kodak Black. All the babies, like
I can't let you disrespect Kodak Black.
Sounds like a lawnmower.
Kodak?
Yes. You took one line in the Kodak Black, just one.
I only know one Kodak song I'm watching. I like it. It's the what's the name of the damn song, man? I don't know the words.
But yeah, because those are the words. Those are the words.
Tunnel vision. It just hit me. I know tunnel vision. The tunnel vision. Like,
that's it.
But here's the thing. I want to give some of the mumble rappers some slack, because even though we may not understand everything that they're saying, if you're able to tap into whatever frequency it is that they are in when they're making their music, sometimes they do be saying some shit. Like, keep in mind, I moved from New York to the South in the mid 2000s, and my biggest issue that I had with listening to Southern rap is that half of the shit these niggas were saying I couldn't understand, because they speak with a certain slur and a slang that went beyond my comprehension. So a lot of what they were saying, I wasn't even catching. But as I got more familiar and I could hear the words more, I'm like, okay, that's not as bad as I.
That is something very different. Stop it right now.
I say that to say this. I say that to say this.
That is an accent that you have to get accustomed to.
That is true.
Kodak Black is not speaking words. As I said, give me one line give me one, just one from a Kodak Black song, just one. Right? You know why you can't? Because he is not enunciating. Stop it.
The consumer don't want that. The consumer does not want these rappers delivering clear messages, you know, that can help progress anything, really. You know, so you're right. Kodak and the.
I usually am. I wish we figured this out by now.
It's true. It's true. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna argue with you on that. But I like Kodak just because of that one song, just because of the Tunnel Vision song. And I see,
what's the line? Every a clock is right at least 2 times a day.
Twice a day. Yeah, even a broken clock is right twice a day.
There you go.
That's right. So I guess I'm giving Kodak too much credit for his twice.
You think? A little bit.
But I don't want to stray away from the main point. The main point is, first of all, rappers, you deliver your music, you make your music however you choose to, right? Like, that's the slack that I think we should all get creatively. Anybody that's creating something should be given the lane to create to the best of their abilities, and however it comes out, the consumers consume it, and the market speaks however it speaks, right? So if you can mumble your way to 1 million, I guess, who am I to judge, right? Who are we to judge?
This is hate over here. I'm hating because I can't do
it. There you go. Haters gonna hate.
I'm here for it.
Haters gonna hate. We haven't figured out how to mumble our ways to 1 million, you know? So
maybe we should start mumbling the podcast. Maybe that'll do it.
Like, y'all picking that up. But if you can do it, do it. Like, we can't judge. But what I don't want us to neglect is the responsibility that we have to use the tools at our disposal to help advance our people. And music is one of those things. Music is one of the things that could never be taken away from us, because quite frankly, if I say so myself, nobody does it better than we do. Like,
facts.
Say
that again.
Nobody does it better than we do. Nobody does music or entertainment, period, better than we do. Yes. And with that power comes lots of influence. So I just feel like
power comes great responsibility.
Absolutely. With great power comes great responsibility. So if you can mumble your way to 1 million and you get that 1 million, that's the time to pivot and say, okay, how can I use what I've built to leverage something that's going to stand the test of time after I'm long gone? Like, once I'm out of here, I'm going to leave something behind that is going to be beneficial to, you know, everybody that I touch, right? So I just wanted to speak to that a little bit, Princess, because I believe that music, not just hip hop, because hip hop is more than music, it's culture. It's something that it actually comes from a place. Oh, as a matter of fact, I love your face when I do that.
Right. I just think about that. Like, he does that all the time, and he gets the same reaction. Like, okay.
I want to, because one thing that I wanted to establish, that I want to be understood, is that when we speak about hip hop, we're not speaking of some ancient art. We're speaking of an art that's not much older than us. Hip hop is maybe what 50 years old. I think 1973 or something like that is when I think actually the 50th anniversary of hip hop is supposed to be soon. August 11th, 1973 is when Kool Herc had that hip hop party on 1520 Cedric Avenue in the Bronx. So hip hop is not that old, and it was created by people who are still alive. That means to me that if there's anything that we don't understand about the origins and the purpose of the culture, all we have to do is turn to the people who started the shit and be like, hey, man, are we doing anything wrong here?
They're all going to say yes.
Okay, then. So if they say yes, at what point do we take that into account so that we can save what they built? Save what they started, because some people might say, "Oh, they didn't build it because they didn't make the money." Like there's ignorant motherfuckers in today's culture, like DJ academics, that have the audacity to go at the founders of the culture that he's used to make. I don't know how many, I don't know how much money he's made, but it looks like he's made millions of dollars off of hip hop culture and off of the spawn of what's promoted in hip hop culture, and he finds it his business to critique the founders of the culture who were pushed to the side once the money started to roll in. And we've seen over time what that's done to the culture. We've seen what that's done to young people who are impressionable, and they're using this culture to essentially determine what type of man they want to be, what type of woman they want to be. Because they don't have leadership in the home, they're using popular culture and the influences that they see on TV and the internet to decide who they want to be. And that's not I think people like him, I don't, and I'm not gonna stay here too long because this ain't about him, but people like him who are dismissive of the founders of the culture because the founders didn't benefit off of it the way the people who came after them did. I think that's problematic. And I think where we are today with hip hop culture says that we need to take a couple of steps back and look at the foundation and figure out whether or not there are adjustments that we need to be made, that we need to make culturally, and what those adjustments are. We just need to check in with those who started it because they're still here.
I'm so glad you went back to that, because that's exactly what I was about to go back to. I wanted to answer that. Well, I wanted to say to that a part of the problem is I don't see those people that need to ask that question asking that question, because I don't think they care. I think the art of hip hop has gotten lost. And so because they are making money the way that they are, nobody cares about what the initial and original intents and purposes were. They're getting what they're getting. Who cares about that? But I think for those of us that truly love hip hop in its truest and rarest form, and in its rawest form, that's what we're looking for.
Right.
But once again, we don't buy music.
Man.
So who really cares what we think?
And that's the thing, like it has to be about more than just record sales. Like,
but I mean, think of it, like look at it. Look at how videos have changed. I remember like dying, like waiting when a song hit, a real good song hit, and you were waiting to see this video. It was like you just wanted to see the video. I remember last time I looked at the video. Now, mind you, once again, I'm clearly not in that age bracket anymore. I don't got
Right.
no time to be sitting here watching BET and watching videos.
Ain't no video
Clearly.
music box now. Like
Right.
back in the
Right.
day, we
Right.
couldn't
Not
wait
a
to
thing.
get home to watch videos.
Right. Or I'd be up in the middle of the night when I was supposed to be asleep looking at it was channel 31. I can't remember what the channel was, but
That was
definitely
video. That
watching
was when video
videos.
music box came on too. 31.
Right. Right. So whatever. But I think even if you look at videos, there's no substance to it. It's just a bunch of dudes in a bunch of cars and flashy jewelry and girls shaking their ass. I'll
That's the
pass.
formula. Yeah, that's the
That's all
formula.
it is. I was watching a video the other day. Well, I wasn't watching. A video was on. Clearly, I'm not watching it. But it was what's that guy's name? Young somebody.
Everybody's young somebody.
I know. Can't even remember his name. It was young somebody. But literally, first of all, once again, I couldn't understand what he was saying. Let's put that out there. And then on top of that, the video was literally just, it was like this, what did they call it? Like the panoramic view where you pan the room, right? And so the camera's panning the room and all you see is him in different rooms with a bunch of sneakers and a bunch of jewelry. That was the whole video. Really? Really?
And most of it probably wasn't even his.
And the sad part about it, somebody YouTube that. Like they looked for it.
Probably got hundreds of millions of views.
What is so exciting about that?
Do you think people are inspired by it?
The sad answer to that question is probably.
Okay. Now, if they are, is that a good thing to be inspired by seeing someone flaunt, their material things and talk about how much they have?
So, let's peel it back for a second. I think it's safe to say that anytime you are watching a music video, there's probably some appeal to wanting to do that or be that, right? Like I think it's safe to say that even in our time when we had good videos, like that's what you were looking for, right? You were trying to embrace and there's another E word that I'm looking for that I can't remember, but you were trying to you were inspired is not the word that I'm looking for, but almost like excited about this person or this rapper or this artist in this video and what was happening, right? So I think there's some level of that for everybody. I think when we're talking about videos today, it's you're inspired to have a bunch of sneakers and a bunch of jewelry, but how are you going to get there? Because I guarantee you, you're not going to do it by rapping.
Listen, when I saw Big Pimpin', I couldn't wait. Like I wanted to be on a yacht popping champagne with big booty women all around me, dressed in all white linen,
Yeah, were you gonna go sell drugs and rob the stores to get there?
I was trying to figure out a different way. I was trying to figure out a different way. But I asked that question because can it be inspiring to see somebody who looks like you, who presumably comes from places like where you come from, achieve that level of success? Absolutely, it can.
Of course.
It makes it feel like it's attainable. But
Absolutely.
when the prevailing message of those people is that they got it a certain way, they got it by being the most competitive, the toughest, the most gangster, the biggest hustler, all of the things that are glorified through our culture, like from the street, all of the street things that are glorified in our culture. When they're promoting to people, to the listener, that this is how they got it, I would imagine that there are some, specifically young people, who are hearing that and thinking that they got to get it the same way. And I think that's where the danger comes in.
Absolutely.
I
And that's
think
why I asked that question. As much as you saw that and you felt like you wanted to attain it, did you feel like you needed to do the negative things to attain it? No, your thought process was, I got to figure out another way. I think our children, they're so impressionable and they do not have the home and the necessary home environments to pivot them from some of that. And so now we end up with people that are watching these videos, listening to this music, that don't understand that there are other ways to do this, that that's not what you want to do. And as you said, I think that's the danger. Like that's where we're in dangerous territory.
Do you think there's another side of that coin also where there are people who might not come from that background, might not come from, you know, the might not have had a hard upbringing or come from the hood, but they hear it so much in the music that it becomes something that they want to impersonate in their real life?
Oh my God. Oh my God. So I went to private school. Bunch of white kids. And I'd be looking at them like
a bunch of B-Rads, Malibu's most wanted.
bruh.
Don't be hating. You about to hate? Don't hate. Don't be hating.
Do you remember that movie ATL?
I probably seen it once. Yeah, once or twice.
So there's a the chick in the movie, she comes from this like really rich upbringing, really rich background. No, there you go. And Nunu goes to the hood to hang out with the hood kids. And, you know, she gets found out. And this line always sticks in my mind. He was like, yo, you want to be down so bad. He said, you can have the pissy hallways.
Keep that shit.
Yeah, like I think
pissy elevators too.
I always thought about that. Like it looks so cool, like so cool to be down. But I promise you that as much as I love what growing up in Flatbush gave me, and as much as I love, I feel like we made the best of our situations as children because we couldn't do any better, right? Like this is what we were given, so the best out of it. But I promise you this: if I could have lived in the East Side with the Jeffersons, I'd have been there.
Word, that's a fact.
I'd have been there. I probably still would have been going to Flatbush every day, but I would have went home. Right. So yeah, I do feel like there's this element of, seeing this and it giving you, it's almost like this badge of honor, like you came through that. Yes. But we had to come through that. It wasn't a choice. Word. It wasn't a choice. So when you want to, for those that didn't have to go through that, the fact that you think it's so cool, let me be the first one to tell you, it's not fun. It's not exciting to go in your house and hear sirens all night. It's not fun to go outside and never know when the gunshots are going to start flying. Like it's not the life that you want to live. It's really not that much fun. Right. So yeah, I do think there's that element of those people that don't come from there wanting to emulate. That's the word, the E word I was looking for. Emulate.
Like a half hour ago.
Yeah, I do think there's some element of that, wanting to emulate some of that because it looks cool. But then once again, all you going and that's the nasty part, right? Like you can emulate that, you can do all of that, but when shit hits the fan, you got daddy and his lawyers to get you out of it.
Or you turn state's witness.
Go ahead, Takashi.
That's the thing, man. Like, that's the part about it that bothers me is, artistically speaking, I believe that people should have the space. Again, I think we already said this. People should have the space to do what they want creatively. So if you're really that tight, if you're really in the street, you reserve the right to express that on record, however you feel, right? But if you ain't really like that, you shouldn't be doing it, no matter how much money it can make you. Like, that's the way I feel. Because at the end of the day, what the fuck does you busting your gun or you selling dope, what does that have to do with whether or not you can rap, whether or not you can actually make good music? One has absolutely nothing to do with the other. If you tough, be tough when it's time to do tough shit. Mm-hmm. That's the time where you prove it. You ain't got to rap about it. You got to tell nobody nothing. But when it's
Not
time,
all you're doing is snitching on yourself. Can we talk about that?
Yes, you're bringing attention to yourself because, and we're finding out with Young Thug now, as you know, they're still trying to take him to trial.
Might have been Young Thug. That might have been the name Young Thug. It might have been him. The video.
The young rapper you was talking about.
Yeah, might have been Young Thug.
It could have been Young Thug. I don't know, but we're finding out with him that they will use, or at least they'll try to use your lyrics and your content that you make against you in court. So if you really about that, it best serves yourself and it best serves the community at large that you leave the gangster shit where it happens. It don't need to be in the music. You're not.
I want to, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I want to say just before you move on from that point, because I do think it's important that, yes, we have this thing called freedom of speech, right? So I should be able to say what I want in these records and it not be held against me. However, like I always say, we can't talk about what should be. We got to talk about what is.
What it is, right?
Right. You're right. It shouldn't be used against you, but you see what they're trying to do. Why put yourself in that position? Especially if you did the crime.
And that's the hook right there. Because I'm not really talking about the people who fronting. Like, right. if you're fronting because you can make some money from fronting, that'll probably catch up with you eventually, because the people who ain't fronting, they gonna want to know, like, yo, is he really like that? Let's press him.
Test it. Let's test the theory.
Let's press him. Let's see if he really about that or if he just rapping.
You also can't be rapping about somebody else's crime.
But here's the thing, though, and this is the whole system of the culture has been hijacked, I feel, because most people in the street that's really about that, they can't rap.
Right.
They too busy doing street shit.
Right.
You know, there's some rappers who, you know, were really outside, who were really doing street. Like, one of my favorite rappers, and this is why I said I'm kind of part of the problem, is because I love gangster rap. I love it. But I love the gangster rap that aligns with like what I saw coming up when I was in the hood, like how I saw, you know, people in the street carrying themselves, the ones who are honorable. So one of my favorite rappers is Styles P. Shout out to Styles. But he had a line in one of his songs. He said, "I'm on the grind every night. That's why I don't write, nigga." Because you had a point where, you know, Jay-Z was talking about, I don't write rhymes. You know, I'm like, I keep everything in my head because I'm outside hustling. I ain't got time to get a pen and a pad. So I had to remember these rhymes, like the lyrical exercise, like he says, for those who
I gotta put the plug in there. Biggie never wrote a rhyme either. Just saying.
Big, actually, you know what? You thank you for correcting me, because Big was the first one to really get that crown of not writing. How he had everything stored in his memory. So I'll give you that. I'll give you that for sure. Big get the points.
Shout out the Biggie.
Jay got that from Big. But I like the fact that Styles put it that way. On the grind every night. That's why I don't write, nigga. Like, because I'm outside. And the fact is, most of the people who are really outside like that, they can't rap, they not rapping. So what happens is, since you have people who are in the house writing rhymes, honing their craft to be a good lyricist, if they're writing gangster shit, you're gonna need the protection of the gangsters, because you're gonna have gangsters who want to see if you're about that. So it it's like it creates this ecosystem of gangster shit, and it's intertwined with hip hop, which it never should have been. And now we got a whole generation of people looking for a future in fronting, a future in being something that they don't have to be. They can choose another route, but the culture that they have paid attention to all of this time has kind of been pushed into this direction, where this is, and it's a copycat thing. Once NWA found success,
has got to stop. You want to know why I'm on the warpath? When I saw this, I said, that's it. We march again, and we're going to keep on marching and demonstrating the truth. For 400 years, prophet came before principle, as black women bore the brunt of slave masters' degradation. But even through the Middle Passage, the peculiar institution of slavery, the spirit of black women and their families could not be broken. Today, however, through the lyrics of rappers who display no respect for women, no respect for families, and little respect for themselves, the souls of our sisters are being destroyed, and so too their progeny.
the people who created hip hop are still alive. So if we want to do things properly, what we should be doing is consulting with these people, because they've been.
But I think what you said was key there. If we want to do things properly, what's the incentive for them doing things properly?
The incentive is changing the current trajectory of hip hop. Like, we have to acknowledge something. The cold, hard truth of hip hop is this: when it started in the beginning, the critics thought that it was just a fad. They thought it was something that was coming along that might replace disco. It was a flash.
No one could foresee what hip hop would become.
Nobody thought that it would be the most influential culture known to man.
Right.
Bar none. There's no culture of entertainment, music, or whatever that transcends all things. It transcends race, religion, sexual preference, all of that shit. You're going to see when you go to a hip hop concert, you're going to see people from all walks of life. Everybody loves hip hop. Like, that's just what it is. So with that being the case, we have to make the sustainability of it a priority. And if we allow it to become a culture that's just producing gang members, murder victims, mumble rappers, people catching RICO charges, like, eventually all of this is going to be used to support a belief that the culture itself is detrimental to society and needs to be done away with, and will eventually, because I see it happening already. Like, there's this graying of the area that I see, where hip hop and pop, whereas back in the day they were two separate things. Q-Tip said, like, rap is not pop. If you call it that, then stop. But now I'm seeing, like, there's this mesh that's happening where the top artists, like you mentioned, J. Cole and Kendrick, those guys I think are still predominantly considered to be hip hop. But you got somebody like Drake, who's like the biggest artist in the world, historically would have been viewed as a hip hop artist. But now, because he has melodic music, he sings also, his music is kind of categorized as pop music. So if the biggest hip hop artist is now being called a pop artist, what does that mean for the future of hip hop? People are going to aspire to be the biggest, you know. So I think we have to start to prioritize the things that we need to do to make the culture sustainable. And I think the way that we do that is by paying attention to the foundation. Like, in order for us to make it sustainable, we have to make sure it doesn't go too far away from its core.
These natures come together to create the total hip-hop experience. The first nature of hip-hop is hip-hop, spelled capital H, lowercase I, lowercase p, lowercase h, lowercase o, lowercase p. One word, hip-hop. It looks like Hiphop. But this hip-hop nature is our unique spirit, our unique collective consciousness, the creative force behind hip-hop's elements. Hip-hop is the name of our lifestyle and collective consciousness. The second nature of hip-hop is spelled capital H, lowercase I, lowercase p, space, capital H, lowercase o, lowercase p. This hip-hop is the creation and development of breaking, MCing, graffiti art, DJing, beatboxing, street fashion, street language, street knowledge, and street entrepreneurialism. It is what we call ourselves and our activity in the world. This hip-hop is the name of our culture. Finally, the third nature of hip-hop is lowercase h, lowercase I, lowercase p, dash, lowercase h, lowercase o, and lowercase p. This hip-hop represents rap music product and those things and events associated with rap music entertainment. This hip-hop is a music genre. Now look at this. You have hip-hop 1, hip-hop 2, hip-hop 3, the three natures of hip-hop. Hip-hop 1 is consciousness. Hip-hop 2 is culture. Hip-hop 3 is product.
But nowhere in here, although, you know, like we say, being competitive is an inherent part of culture, being a competitor is not an element of hip-hop. You know, your success doesn't have to mean someone else's failure, and someone else's success doesn't mean your failure. You do what you do.
There's enough room for all of us.
It's enough room for all of us. And there are other genres of music that do it all the time. So we can't pretend like that's not an option for us either. Like, we should be looking forward to having old rappers. You know, it should be a good thing if we see rappers who are old and they can still tour and they can still sell out shows and provide for themselves and their families the way these rock stars do.
Not even just rock stars. Look at Patti LaBelle, Gladys Knight, Anita Baker. Like,
Tina Turner just died, a couple of weeks ago, and she was touring in her 70s.
I didn't know she died. I feel a way about that.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot going on, so understood.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Tina Turner just died like maybe 2 weeks ago.
Oh my God, how did I miss that? That's terrible. You got to edit that out. I'm ashamed. But what I was saying is that even in our culture, you know, we see that R&B, our pop stars, and look at Michael Jackson. That is still popping, right? So I love that point that we have the ability to keep it pushing. Like, we have that. We just have to stop making music that doesn't align with that.
That's what it is, and it's hard, and that's the thing. It's when you're making your music these days, rappers, I want some of y'all to think of something. I want you to vision yourself being 55, 60 years old. And if music is what you truly love, if hip hop is what you love, make something today that you could comfortably perform at 55, 60 years old. Like, I know hip hop is a young man's sport. You know, it's what's the news, right? Like what's going on today? What's hip? That's what's hip. Is like what's going on today? What's new? What's the exclusive? So I get it. It's a young, like, by nature, it's a young man's sport. So you're gonna have an element of young people that are expressing, you know, their reality, and that's fine. But there comes a point where that's no longer your reality, where the ugliest parts of life are no longer your reality. So I think we just have to prioritize longevity in that aspect. Like everything doesn't have to be about the most ignorant shit that you can think of and how creatively you can say it. Sometimes
The problem with that is that we are making the assumption that these artists are in this business because of the love of the music. And I don't think that's the case.
that needs to be restored. And I think that might
be restored.
that might need to be driven in part by the consumers, you know. So those of us who do appreciate artists that respect the craft, that take the time to hone their skills, we need to give them more attention. We need to do our part to put them at the forefront and put them in the spotlight and move some of these other people who are just in it so that hopefully they can get a quick buck, move them further to the back of the line. You know, because it's, if not, it's self-destruction. We're headed for self-destruction. You know, like I listened to that song today, that song and the message, and it's crazy to me how they were so spot on. And I think we talked about that on this show before in another episode, about how like records like Self-Destruction and the message and probably some other ones that I'm not mentioning from back in the day, how they spoke to just how important it was for us to get a grip on our culture because the ops had plans and they carried out their plans. You know, they made us millions of dollars. We made them billions. You know, I guess they helped us make billions. We got billionaire people from hip hop. But when we look at the overall impact, I think we would all be lying if we said that we were satisfied with the outcome.
I think the other thing that, and I want to touch on this before we wrap up. I think the other thing that's lost is the appreciation for what came before. So I know as a child listening to what my mother and my dad listened to at that time, it was just like, what is this? Like, where is Biggie? Because this is too much, right? But as I got older, I learned to appreciate a lot of that music. And so I think what has lost is I feel like this generation doesn't appreciate what came before them. They don't appreciate the Biggies and the Biz Markies and the KRS-One. Like they don't appreciate that stuff. And that's why it gets lost. Because there's nobody to hold that torch. Nobody's checking for that. But what they fail to understand is all those mumble rappers and gangster rappers that they're listening to, all of that stuff stems from our generation, right? So if you wanted to continue, yeah, you got to pay homage. And I don't think anybody pays homage.
Nah, not anymore. I mean, because it's a young man's sport. So when old dudes try to stick around too long, you know, they pushed out of the way or they clowned out of the way. Like I heard a discouraging outlook from one of my favorites, Andre 3000. I heard a clip from an interview he did where he talked about why he doesn't really make music anymore. And he talked about how hip hop, being what it is as a young man's sport, if you stick around too long, you start to look a certain way. You start to look like you're trying to stay cool. You're trying to fit in. And I was I was I was sad that that was his perspective because he's one of the most talented rappers the game has had ever. And with that being the case, I feel like if he were to make music, the things that he would have to say would be powerful enough to where it can shift the culture. Like there's only a handful of guys who have that ability in hip hop culture, and I feel like he's one of them. So I'm like, damn, homie, like you don't think that your voice is powerful enough to say something that moves the culture in the direction where it needs to go? Like you think that people are gonna be looking at you like, nigga, oh nigga, shut up. Like you trying to play a young man's game. Like you like I was kind of sad to hear
I
him
mean,
say that.
that is sad. It is sad, but I wonder if that comes from what he's seeing,
More than
if that's
likely.
just his reality.
More, I mean, I think a lot of people would hear that and agree with it because rappers themselves, how many rappers have you heard say, I'm not trying to be no 40-year-old rapper. I'm not trying to be rapping, at this age or that. Like rappers, they age themselves. Like it's been happening for the longest time. But I was just surprised to hear it coming from him. Like he was somebody who I would have thought would have had a different point of view, because especially also because he's one of the more eclectic rappers. Like he's another one, was not making gangster music.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of the best ever. You know what I mean? So I just think we need three stacks and people like him. Don't put the fucking microphone down, man. Like when you do
We
that,
need you.
we
The
need you.
culture needs you.
The culture needs you, three stacks. The culture needs you. When you move out of the way, there's too many people who don't have an ounce of the talent that you got in your pinky trying to step into your shoes. And they're
Facts.
they're poisoning the pool. We need you to occupy your space so that people don't forget like how it is and how it could be. I'm gonna take words from him. Tell it like it is and then tell it how it could be. That we need as many people as we can in the culture to keep doing that, to exhaustion. Like the culture is on the line. The culture is on the line. Like you always talk about Biggie. I'm gonna ramble a little bit more before we wrap this up.
Yes, because I got a question for you, but go ahead.
But you always talk about Big. And when I go back, to my experience with hip hop, Big came around like right after or right in the beginning of gangster rap becoming the prevailing theme in the culture. Like right in the beginning of it being the popular part of the most popular and the most lucrative part of hip hop culture. Big hit the scene probably, I think I probably heard Big, the first time I heard Big was probably like 93. If I'm thinking back, like 92, 93 was probably the first time I heard Big. So I'm talking 11, 12 years old for me. What year was Big killed? 96 or 90? No, 97.
97.
Big was killed in 97. So Big had a 4 or 5 year run before he was dead.
It's still the greatest rapper of all time, but carry on.
Still the greatest rapper of all time. I would have liked to believe that would have been the moment, considering that we had already been given instruction from like Boogie Down Productions, from Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five about what the street life and all of that shit brings. We had already been lectured about that by the fathers of the culture. So to have the greatest of all time come out, you know, there's that element in his music. Although that wasn't all Big was about. Like Big made great music. And he can make great music for everybody. It wasn't just gangster shit all the time.
Facts.
But Big was outside.
It was outside.
So he was one of the few that was outside, and we had to watch, unfortunately, what came from. Like he didn't die from being outside. He died over the music shit. But he died over outside shit permeating the music.
Into the music. Mm-hmm.
And the two are supposed to be separated. So I would have liked to have believed that that would have been the moment where we said, you know what? Nah, we need to take heed to what our founders are talking about. And we need to keep this element to a minimum in our culture.
And in true fashion, we did the exact opposite.
The exact opposite. We doubled down and said, oh shit. They made
shout out to Nipsey, 10 toes down.
What is it worth? You know what I mean? What is it worth? Like we can do better. We can choose better. And I want the rappers to, I just want all of the rappers to be aware that when they go in the booth and they make their music, yes, you have a right to express yourself. But if you're in the booth and you rapping some shit that you didn't do, that you don't live, that's not you, you're a clown. I just want that to be clear. You don't
Clown
need
boot.
to be. You are clown boots. You clown boots. I want that to be clear because the only time where it matters whether or not you're a gangster is when there's some gangster shit happening. That's the only time it matters.
Facts.
It don't matter how many fucking studios you shoot up. It don't matter how tough you are in the booth. If you step out of the booth and that ain't you, or if you get into some real shit and then you start talking to police, or if you go to trial and you take the stand, or if you gangster with everybody except for police, like you're a clown. So just stay true to you. If you got a talent, make music that allows you to put your talent on display. Let it be about that and not, you know, the way that you wish people would view you or some sensationalized shit just because you think you can make some money. You know, because when you do that, you're putting that message into the minds of impressionable youth that are listening to you. And that's counterproductive because the rest of us are left to clean up that fucking mess. You know, so let's do better. Let's do better. Let's
When you know better, you do better.
Yes. And we definitely know better because we see it every day. And we have a great opportunity. Like being out here, for instance, I see so many people. I've met a few people from Africa. And it's amazing how much they admire us in the West. Like, but it's a cultural thing. They love our culture. They're heavily influenced by our culture.
Our culture is pretty lovable.
It is. It really is.
Especially if we do it. Especially if we do it right.
If we do it right, everybody ain't gonna love it. Everybody ain't gonna love it. But we can live with that. We can live with that. The people who should love it and the people who matter the most, they will love it. And
that's the only people I'm talking about.
All right.
That's the only people I care about.
I just wanted to be clear. Everybody ain't gonna love it.
We don't even like them people.
Shout out. And on that note, this is the last thing I'm gonna say before we wrap this up. Shout out to Kanye West.
So this is how we're gonna wrap this up. No, bring your mic back. I ain't done with you yet. This is how we're gonna wrap this up. Without thought, top 5.
My top 5 all time?
Yes.
Personal top 5 or because there's
personal top 5. Your personal top 5.
My personal top 5. Nas, Big,
I said without thought. You're doing a lot of thinking.
listen, I don't do top 5 for real because what I listen to every day is not like what I was.
That is besides the point. Nas, Big,
Nas, Big. Because I'm wondering if I should put J3. I'm thinking if like Nas, Big, I'll put J3. This I can't knock J that much. Nas, Big, J, Pac. Now I'll put Pac 3. I'll put Pac 3. I'll put J4. Shit. I might have to put Kanye. I might have to put Kanye 5.
You did that to piss me off.
No, I'm serious. I might have to put Ye 5. Can't Tell Me Nothing is one of the hardest records in hip hop history. That record is aged very well.
Wait to dispute that Kanye is a good rapper. That's not my issue with Kanye. Okay?
I might have to put Ye 5. Like Ye,
Right.
Scarface, like KRS, LL. Like it's so many.
I said 5. That was way more than 5, bro. Let it go. Let it go.
I love hip hop. I can't. A top 5
That's
is too
fine.
difficult for me.
You just did it. I'm good. I'm good with what you did.
But if you ask me tomorrow, my answer's gonna change. My order's gonna change. So that's my top 5 today.
Thank you. No problem. I'll take it.
What's yours?
Thought you never asked.
Dylon, and Dylon.
So, Big, not a doubt. Big, J, Fab, Jada, Eminem.
What's your takeaway?
Don't do that. I didn't judge you for yours. Kanye's and yours.
I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. I just said, what's your takeaway?
You didn't have to say anything. Did you see your face? That is very disrespectful. What's wrong with my list? What's wrong with my list?
I got a lot of opinion about that list. But
why? Where's the opinion about the list? Which one of those 5 rappers are not bad boys? Bad boy.
First of
Jada?
all, Jada's not top 5.
Oh, we gotta go. Wrap it up. We gotta go.
Jada's. I respect Jada. Very, very talented brother, but he ain't top 5.
And Kanye is? Time to go.
Kanye's better than Jada.
We don't have time to argue about this. We'll do it in the next show. Time to go.
Yeah, we're gonna revisit this. This ain't gonna be our first hip hop show.
I'm not getting back on here with you. You gotta start find somebody else.
We're gonna revisit this. Like if we talk, that's a great. What you gave me is a great like mixtape and freestyle top 5. I'll give you that. But hip hop, Fab, Jada, and Eminem are not top 5. I'm sorry. That's my strong opinion.
It's time to go. You're lucky I ain't put Mace in there. Fuck around if you want to.
Look at your own videos. You'll always be number 2.
Can we please go?
He can't be top 5 after that. But we're gonna wrap this up. So what do you want? What do you want to be your main takeaway? What do you want the people to take away from this discussion?
I want people to respect their art enough to do what you need to do to show that you respect it.
Work on your craft. I respect that. And that's with all things too, not just hip hop, but with all things. If you're doing something, do it to the best of your ability. I
Stop
feel
doing
that.
it for the check.
Yeah, I feel that. All money ain't good money, like we know.
Coming from a social worker. Might be a little biased.
Different type of perspective, but you're doing God's work. So, we gotta big that up. Big it up, big it up, big it up. You know what I mean? I fuck with that. I would say the main thing I want to be understood is the two-sided coin. On the side of the artist, I want you to understand that when you make your music, you are being given access to the subconscious mind of your listener. I want you to be very calculated on what you choose to plant in their subconscious mind, because these impressionable listeners don't have the ability to distinguish what's true from what's false. They don't have the ability to distinguish fantasy from reality. So they're taking what you give them and they're accepting it as that, and ultimately it'll be reflective in their actions. So in a roundabout way, you become responsible for what they do when they're inspired by what you create. Right? So be mindful of that. And in terms of the listeners, if you find yourself listening to music that puts you in a certain mood, that is inspiring you to do certain things that'll only be harmful to yourself and the people around you,
Stop listening.
change it. Your mind is too impressionable. You don't have the ability to dismiss things that should be dismissed, and that means you should seek something else. All right. So I just want that to be understood, because I think we need to work together on that front so that artists have the ability to create and listeners who enjoy what they create have the ability to listen to it. Because I need gunshots in my hip hop.
Everybody's got to take responsibility. I like it.
Yes, yes. And I don't, sometimes I have days where I need to hear somebody get murdered on a record. So, I want the right to still be able to consume that content.
Like, comment, share,
like, comment, share, subscribe. We thank you all for joining us. We hope that you enjoyed the discussion. Let us know, what's your hip hop top 5, and what's your take? What's your take? Should hip hop artists have to be more conscious of the content that they create, so that we can help build better children who might not have better guidance otherwise? Let us know what you think. This is a group discussion. Hip hop belongs to all of us. So ultimately, we have to decide what direction we want it to go into. All right. So let's do that, please, please. And like we always say before we get out of here,
good job.
You should love yourself. But if you don't, we hate you too. I Hate Humans Podcast, King William Thompson and Princess G. Signing.